it was really, really difficult to set any kind of goals this season, or going into, the early part of this season, because we just didn't know what we were up to. I mean, we didn't know what we were up against. So once we realized, okay, we have everybody here. The goal is to get everybody on the floor at the same time. Once we did that, then it was, let's just do a little bit here and there every day. We don't know when we're starting practice, so we don't know what to do. We don't know when our first game is, so we don't know how to get ready for that. And then once that did happen, we found out when our starting date is for practice, when our starting date is for games. Then it gave us an opportunity to build our calendar. And so far, leading up to the 14th, 13 days from today, we have a pretty good idea of where we want to go, what we want to do, and how we want to do it. And as you can imagine, with 7 kids that have never played at UConn, the going is rather slow, which is fine. And we're getting better, which is the goal. We're getting better every day. Players are improving individually every day. I don't know that we're ready to play a game, but nobody else is either. So I don't feel that bad about it. Because we didn't have the June summer school period, that would be like a mini camp. So going into September, when the kids came back to school, we would have a pretty good idea of what kind of team we have. So we didn't get the chance to do that. So every day we're learning and we're trying to find out who can do what skills does each individual have? And then how do those skills then mesh into what I like to do as a coach? And can I do some of the same things I did last year and the year before? Or do I have to go in another direction because we just don't have the same skill sets? So those things will start to show themselves. And we have until, I think our first game's not till October 28th or something like that. So we have time. We have 2 months. We have 2 months from the before we play. So I'll find out a lot about my team. Right now, I really don't know, I think I know. I think I have an idea, but I don't know for sure what we have. I don't. And I think Kelly's probably, same as most coaches in America. You just don't know what you have. And I know less than most people in the country because, as I said, I've got 7 players that have never played on our team. We know that we're going to have 20 Big East games. That we know. There's going to be 20 Big East games. We know there's going to be 3 or 4 minimum in the month of December. That we know. Non-conference games. We know we're not going to play as many non-conference games as we did in the past. One, because this is more conference games than we had in our previous conference. So that knocks out a couple. Then the late start knocks out a couple. And then each conference has their own deal about how many games they can play. But as of right now, on our schedule, our non-conference schedule, we've been able to, up to today, retain the, excuse me, we've been able to retain, the event at Mohegan, the Notre Dame game, the Baylor game, the South Carolina game, the Tennessee game. We've been able to hold on to those games. And then, we'll get the results pretty soon of what day we're playing, what time, and where. Those things we don't know yet. When I was watching the Minnesota-Seattle series, I couldn't help but shake my head a couple times and look out there, you know, and we got two guys matched up against each other a little bit. We got a point guard that was just named Rookie of the Year, playing against a point guard who's 39 years old. And they both play for me. I was just shaking my head going, what the hell? And then, you know, I'm looking at Stewie and Fisa, and to me, it's remarkable how every year I get to watch some of my former players compete for a championship and, you know, be successful in the playoffs. So, you know, some college coaches don't have any players in the league. Some have a couple players in the league. Some, you know, when their team or teams lose, they don't have anybody to root for. For me, it's like every game, every night, throughout the season, to the last game of the year. Usually every year I have some team to root for. And on this occasion, you know, that Minnesota-Seattle series, it was great. You know, it just reminded me of how many generations of players have come through here. I actually made it a point at practice to say to our team one day, I said, did you guys watch the game? I said, there's almost a 40-year-old point guard on the floor. That was the best guard on the floor. I said, what's that say about the rest of the league? And what's that say about Sue? And I think there's a really good question in that statement. They are the two best players at their positions right now. So that helps. But that doesn't account for all of it. They know when it's winning time. They know how to win big games. They've played in so many of them. And because they've been so successful in so many of them, they walk into every big game knowing they're going to win. That's a big difference than players hoping they're going to win. And then the flip side is true. If you're playing against Sue, let's say, or Stewie, and you know that they don't lose these types of games, that works on you too. So they've got all those things going for them. They're the best. They know how to win. And the guys that are playing against them know that they know how to win. Not yet. Not yet. We really haven't done any of that yet. You know, right now, 24 hours. I don't know. I just read that one day. Hey, if you're anywhere for 24 hours, you have to quarantine. I'm sure if Moses had come and delivered that, it would have been on TV, but I didn't see it. So I don't know how they arrived at that 24 hours, but that's what we're going with. But does that include teams that are coming here that are being tested the day of the game or the day before the game? Is that the same as anyone, anybody else coming from anywhere? I don't know. We're going to find that out. Because if that's the case, then that's also obviously going to limit, some travel. So all these things have yet to be determined. And there's a lot of scenarios out there. You have to go in the day of the game. Well, that's great if you're, if you're playing college football in September and October, and you're going from one warm weather place to another. That's a completely different scenario if you have to fly from Connecticut to Chicago the day of the game. It may work, it may not. So all these things are going to have to, are obviously they're being discussed at the league office. And we don't have any direction as to what those protocols are going to be. You know, in Christyn's case, you know, she had an incredible freshman year and then struggled, according to her, more than she wanted to as a sophomore, and was very disappointed about that. So I watch her now, and she seems to be a lot more aggressive. She seems to be a lot more assertive of herself. Her conditioning is better. But, you know, once you get to be a junior now, you know, you're relied on, you can't shoot 40%. You know, you got to be a good playmaker. You got to make plays for other people and yourself. You got to be able to defend, you know, really, really well at your position. You know, the consistency that you need every day. No, that's what comes with the territory. You have that luxury as a freshman, maybe, that you don't have to be like that. Or as a sophomore, maybe you can be some of those things. But you're at a point now when you're a junior at Connecticut, like there is no my bad, we'll get it next time. You know? So I see that sense. But it'll grow as time goes on. But there is a different approach that I see in her than I saw last season, for sure. Yeah, I mean, it's like anything else. I'm confident I know where I'm going until I get lost the first 5 times I go there. And then that kind of shakes your confidence, you know? So I think she's confident, but when you shoot the ball as poorly as she did for long stretches, I think it did shake her up a little bit.
Yeah.
And I think that's what happens. You know, when you, and I think that's a good thing. Don't get me wrong. I think that's a good thing. When you put a premium on making shots and then they don't go in, then you have to ask yourself, well, what am I going to do on those days when it doesn't go in? So it forces you to adapt and reinvent yourself a little bit. And everybody goes through that. Everybody does. You either go through it freshman year or you go through it sophomore year. You got to go through it. So I think going through that really helped her. Not really. I mean, if we're practicing to get ready for March, then we can't start coaching like we have a game tomorrow. We can't start doing anything, you know, and say there's a sense of urgency, because there isn't. So what we're doing is we're doing very, very, very fundamentally sound things for short periods of time. And we won't get into the more in-depth stuff until after October 14th. So that approach really hasn't changed that much. You know, we're trying to get them, you know, comfortable, which is what we would do, you know, with any team that we have. And maybe if we had 7 returning players and 4 new players, we would be more advanced right now. But we're not, because we can't be. We can't outrun, you know, where we are. Like, this is where we are. We have to slow down. And I'm okay with that. You know, we're not going to be as good at as many things as we were in past years. But at a few things, we'll be just as good as we've ever been. So that's kind of what our approach is right now. Well, with this group, I'm really impressed with how competitive we are. Our incoming players are extremely competitive. Extremely competitive. And that, in of itself, is going to add a lot to this team. They don't back down to anybody, our freshmen. Now, they all have varying levels of competitiveness. I'm throwing Evina into that mix. Those 7 are all competitive as hell. And among those 7, there may be different levels of competitiveness, but that competitive spirit is really, really, really high among those new kids. That's something that I'm excited about building on. I think they're handling it great. I mean, they have no choice, right? So it's not like they can choose to handle it poorly. Mm-hmm. They have to handle it well. You know, there are days where you could see that it's a little bit of a burden, you know, not, I don't say burden, but it's weary. It's weary because they don't get to interact with anybody. They don't necessarily ever feel like, hey, I can just do what I want to do for a couple of days because we don't have practice. You know, they've always got to be on their best behavior, on guard. You know, they've always got to be just around each other. So after a while, you know how that can get. So, you know, between school and study hall and, you know, all the stuff that they're being asked to do, you know, we're trying to fill their days up. But their spirits have been remarkably high. Hey, listen, one good thing that's come out of this, these guys are so bored, they have nothing to do. They're always in the gym. So that's one good thing. This is one of the first years where, like today, I wanted to stop. I wanted to knock off practice. And then Christyn Williams said, "Are you getting ready to call it?" I said, "Yeah." She goes, No, we're not done yet." I said, "All right, then we'll just keep going." And then later on, you know, somebody, I think it was Nika. Nika missed a shot at the end, and I said, "Okay, we're done. Let's go." And she's like, "What? We were going to end it on that?" I said, "Yeah. I mean, like, you know." So there's this feeling about them, like, please don't send me home. You know, let me stay and play in the playground. Don't send me home. You know, the challenge for Evina has been great in that, you know, I haven't played competitive basketball in a long time. I'm coming off surgery that kept me out a long time. I'm trying to incorporate with a whole new set of players that I don't, you know, have any chemistry with on the court yet. So there's a lot on her plate. And I really, truly believe that, you know, as I said, I don't remember because I didn't get a chance to coach E when she played. I only saw her at practice for a tiny bit. But I can see, you know, again, her drive and her edge and her competitiveness and her ability to make plays. The conditioning part, you know, it's going to take some time. I think the COVID thing has really played a big part in where their conditioning is. It can't be as great as we would want it to be, but at the same time, I'm really happy with where he is right now. That was a big moment for them because they kept hearing that there's going to be a season, but they didn't know, you know, they didn't know when. And then when you see fall sports being canceled, when you saw football not being played, you know, it does start to make you wonder, hey, is basketball going to be the next shoe to drop? So when that date came out, yeah, there was a sense of, you know, bounce in their step, like, okay, we got a plan now. Now it's definite. We're going to have a season. We're going to have a tournament. We're going to have the NCAA tournament. Yeah, the feeling was very noticeable of, you know, the upbeat. You know, we're not just doing this hoping and praying. We're doing this because we have a plan. I'm trying to make it as normal as possible. You know, you look around and you see everybody with a mask on, so that's not normal. Although it's become normal, but that's not what I'm used to. You know, you just have to roll with it. You know, that's kind of always been my philosophy here. You know, you can't worry about things that, you know, how's that impact winning? That's my question all the time. You know, when people ask me a question, I say, well, what's that got to do with winning? If it impacts winning, then I got to worry about it. If it doesn't, then there's nothing I can do about it. just got to roll with it. So, yeah, you look out there and you go, man, this is really weird. But it is what it is. And everybody else in the country is dealing with it. So whoever deals with it the best is going to put themselves in a position to be successful. And we've always done a pretty good job of that. But I'm trying to make it as normal as possible, but it's not. It's not. That has always been one of our biggest strengths. You know, our crowds are great. The fans are loyal. They're passionate. Whether it's here or at the XL Center, you know, teams in the conference or around the country, they knew if they came here, you know, now other schools have done a really good job, you know, in the meantime of building their own, you know, fan bases. But, you know, for the longest time, you know, and we were the standard. And for us not to have that, maybe for some other teams, they're not quite sure what, you know, what it is that they're missing because they maybe have never had it to that extent. But for us, it's big. It's really big. But that's an unknown too. Are we going to have no fans? Are we going to have a percentage of fans? Are we going to have friends and family, students? Hey, nobody knows. Nobody knows. We'll have to have a lottery. We'll have to have a lottery for the media too. Everybody's going to put their name in a hat. I'm going to pull it out. Then I'm going to look at it. And I'm going to go, no. I'll be like the Roman Empire. I'm going to give it up or down. So you guys better start sucking up to me if you want to come to games.
Start.
You look at, you know, if you say, what are the ingredients that go into that? You know, you look at somebody like Kareem, he was incredibly consistent. So every year you knew what you were going to get from him. So every year he was a threat to win the whole thing. And, you know, obviously health played a big role in that. And being on a great team played a big role in that. So for Sue, her incredible consistency as a player comes from her consistency as a person. So this is what I do every day. This is what I did every day when I was a rookie in the WNBA. And then I learned. And then the second year I did this. And then the third year I did this. And each year for the last 16 years, whatever, she's added something that's made her more consistent, kept her healthier. You know, there's some injuries that have happened that you can't control. But she's an incredible leader on the basketball court of epic proportions because she understands this is what has to be done with this particular team in order to win. So it doesn't matter to her who the coach is. It doesn't matter. As long as she has the opportunity to direct the team, they're going to find the way to win. They'll find a way to win. Because when you're that smart and you're that committed and you're that consistent, you're a hard person to beat. And, you know, some people, they just have the knack for the big moment. And I've been fortunate. I mean, I've had a lot of players come through this, you know, this program that have a knack for the big moment. And there happens to be two people on that Seattle team. Did you check the numbers of the last game, the deciding game? I mean, not the deciding game, but the closeout game. Did you check the stats? Okay. One guy had 30 some, shot like 80% from the floor. The other guy had 16 points and 9 assists. Between the two of them, they had 15 assists. Between the two of them, they accounted for something like 60 some of the 80 points. So these are the moments that they train for. And Sue's been training for these moments every single day since her rookie year. And some people just don't have the stamina to be able to do that. They don't have the discipline to do that. They don't, you know how hard it is to stay in shape for 12 months of the year? And the older you get, I mean, I can't do it. I have a COVID-19 drawer at my house. I have a wine opener. I can't see it anymore. It's covered with so many labels. That's my discipline. I want to fill this drawer up. Sue's discipline is I want to win championships every single year I'm in the league. And I'm going to give up all the things that cause me to not be able to do that. That's unusual, but that's how you last that long. And I'm sure, you know, people probably looked at Kareem and went, how's he do that? But I bet you he was disciplined, committed, and talented as hell. Well, so far we haven't heard from anybody that says, hey, we're off the schedule. We're not playing. So until somebody does that, which they haven't, then yeah, we have those games. Like I said, we don't have the date, we don't have the day, we don't have the time, we don't have any of that. But we have a commitment that we're playing. Now, the way things are in the world today, things change every day. So who knows? But as of right now, today, when I'm talking to you right now, all those conference games are scheduled. And so I hear otherwise, that's what we're going with.